Hey guys, welcome back to Activate Your Best Health. I'm John Nieders, and I'm joined by my co-host and health expert, Leslie Snyder. Today, we're diving into 3 powerful yet simple lifestyle habits that can significantly impact your health. Time-specific eating, time-restricted eating, and walking after meals. Let's go ahead and explore time-specific eating, especially the timing of meals in relation to sleep, waking up, and Leslie, what should people know?
Thanks, John. We get a lot of questions about that, to be honest. It's really a loaded question. It's kind of like the question I always get, do I eat breakfast? It's the most important meal of the day, right? Do I, is it okay for me to eat, right before bed? How long should I wait? If I shouldn't eat right before bed, how many hours before I go? I wish it was more black and white, and I wish I had better answers for everybody, but I think it's really specific and goal oriented. If I want to improve my sleep habits, I probably shouldn't be eating a big meal at 9:30. So,
Yeah,
I
makes
mean, I
sense.
could eat a little bit probably if my goal is to improve my sleep habits, but I also want to improve my muscle protein synthesis during the night. And that should probably be really protein centric. So, I eat right before I go to bed. I sleep pretty good, but I do eat protein because I want to maximize muscle protein synthesis. I don't eat very many carbs right before bed. So my carbs are either mornings or, by 5 o'clock. I've probably pretty much eaten the most of my carbs by that time. If you want to lose weight, obviously restricting that time, say dinner time is like, I don't know, it gets later and later, doesn't it? 7 o'clock now. Back in the day, it was 5 or so, but now it's kind of like 7, 8 o'clock is normal, especially if you have kids and activities and so forth. So you're probably going to want to eat probably by 7 if you're going to bed about 10. Now, if you're starving yourself in a huge caloric deficit, it's kind of hard to sleep too. So you kind of might, wake up hungry at 2:30 in the morning or whatever. It's kind of a catch-22 sometimes, but if you do want to lose weight, I do recommend avoiding those meals right before bedtime. If you want to improve muscle protein synthesis, then have a protein-centric meal. If you want to improve sleep, just, I think an hour or two, and we've had this conversation too before, can't treat food as medicine until we start researching it like medicine. So that's part of the problem that we're having with all these things and so many different points of views, especially on the internet. You could throw a rock at somebody and get a different point of view from all 10 people. So in the mornings, I don't eat breakfast really. I mean, it's my first meal of the day, so it is considered breakfast, but I tend to do a little bit of time restricted eating. Not as much as I used to do. I used to really do time restricted eating and then do a more extended fast at least once a week. But that was when I really wanted to lean out, because anytime you do time restricted eating, isn't that the main benefit of time restricted eating or fasting? You kind of reduce those calories, right? So that's the easiest way I've always used for clients, because basically if I restrict your eating in times or windows, time restricted eating or fasting, however you want to call it, if I do those things, then 99% of the time we're going to eat less calories. And that's
Yeah.
why people lose weight on that. Regardless of the foods they choose, if you integrate time restricted eating, then you're going to eat less. Just plain and simple.
Yeah.
Just be cognizant of protein intake.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
big, me. If I got a tattoo on my forehead, it'd be like, eat protein. Like,
Yeah. Now I have heard, so when I used to play tennis at, the very high level, when we would train, specifically what I was told, like in the morning when you wake up, you would put off your breakfast a little bit because your insulin sensitivity is highest in the morning. So it would actually get you to shred fat a lot more by delaying that first major meal if you can get in some cardio before that. Is that a strategy that you've employed with clients?
mine's not really anything to do with that. At least my mindset wasn't. It's just that I have a better workout in a fasted state. So mentally for
Okay.
me, I'm able to push through harder. So, working out in the mornings always works out best for me. And then in a fasted state really helps. And then you go protein timing. Do I take in protein right after my workout? How does that work? Well, it can be beneficial in the untrained person. So if a person is untrained, meaning their first 6 to 12 months of working out, that protein timing is pretty important. But in the trained individual, it's really irrelevant. I can work out at 5:30 in the morning and not have protein till 2 o'clock, and it's not going to make a difference.
Mm,
But typically I don't do that. I don't do much extended fasting these days. At least 12. My fasting window or my time restricted. If my last meal is at 10, then I'm definitely not eating before 10 o'clock the next day. So typically about 14 hours, just in that fasted state. It
gotcha.
just helps regulate all those hormones, as you know.
Yeah,
That's your realm there, so you could touch on that. So
definitely. What would be, I don't know, 3 or 4 points that people who are wanting to hone in on the time specific eating, and then we'll kind of move into time restricted and then get into the last one as well that we mentioned earlier, which was walking after meals.
yeah, you would want to avoid eating those high carbohydrate meals too close to bedtime. So we need about 2 to 3 hours prior to going to sleep for that to really wear off, so drop our blood sugar levels down. I would probably focus more on keeping my carbs earlier in the day, and then spread my protein out equally and evenly throughout the day is very important. It's
Mm.
I say very important. I should just say it's beneficial, right? So technically, in a trained person, we could eat 100 grams of protein, and the body's going to utilize all of it. You say we eat 100 grams at 8 o'clock in the morning, the body's going to utilize it every 100 grams by 8 o'clock the next day. It would be better if I took that 100 grams and split it into 3 sessions,
Yeah.
or even two. Probably two for me, depending on how many grams.
Yeah, for sure. Now then back to like, if people want to have muscle maintenance or growth on the muscle side, just like how you said that you even eat sometimes protein before bed because that's your goal. So, they're avoiding those high carb meals close to bedtime, but then maybe like right before bed, they could get like a light protein snack or something just to get that protein in them throughout the evening for that subset of individuals who's trying to have the muscle maintenance or growth, correct?
Correct, but I'll touch on that a little bit because I'm a firm believer that everybody should want that. Because later in life, ain't that
For sure. Yeah.
you're never going to see a 60 or 70-year-old man or woman say, "Man, I'm sure glad I didn't work out that much when I was younger because I don't need that muscle now." For me, I enjoy working out, training, things like that because I guess it becomes addicting when you see those extreme results. It's not too late once you get, say, my age or 50 and 60. It's never too late, but you're going to want to maintain that muscle mass.
That makes sense. So, the saying that breakfast is your most important meal, that kind of hit home for me when I was training. So you want to make sure that you're eating that balanced meal in the beginning of the day to set that up. Now, of course, you need the protein throughout the day and all of that, but that first meal can set the tone for the rest of the day, correct?
I wonder who came up with that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I wonder who did that.
Everybody's heard that, though, I'm sure.
I know, right? I mean, it's ingrained. What's the most important meal of the day? Is breakfast? Is it the first one? Is it the last one? I don't know. I think they're all equally as important, to be honest with you. But yeah, the most important meal of the day is your next one. That's why nutrition is so difficult for
Hmm.
everybody because there's a lot of opinions out there and people and influencers and people in the industry and people that are friends of mine and you know their way is the way. It worked for you, but that
Everybody's
doesn't mean
different.
that would work.
Yeah.
Cowboy Bob down the street isn't going to be a vegan. He's just not.
Right.
So
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Let's move into now the time restricted eating side of things. So, what are the main benefits of employing a strategy like this?
Weight loss, to be honest, when you do restrict your eating, your blood sugar levels down, and then you get more sensitive, right? So you're more insulin sensitive. Could that be the cure of diabetes?
Yeah. Yeah. Being insulin sensitive is a
I
huge
mean,
leg up for diabetics, for sure.
so there's a doctor, Dr. Jason Fung, that I've read his book probably a dozen times. And he's deep in the weeds, obviously, and I try to listen to a lot of smart people that's their niche because I like to learn, so and it makes sense to me. We have a cure for diabetes. It's like stop eating, so
Yeah.
we can increase your insulin sensitivity. I'm sure it's not that damn easy. I'm being a little tongue in cheek. Not eating is not that simple, but you get the point, right? So if we slow down every time you eat, there's an insulin response. But yeah, that's one of the benefits. And then a lot of people that want to lose weight. And as a coach, I don't have to say eat this diet, that diet, or eat this food. I could break you down on a macro level, right? Because the two things that I'm going to want to really focus in on, number one is the absolute, and that's protein. I'm going to set your protein intake. And then I'm going to set your fat intake at a minimum of 20%, and the rest of it's a variable, right? I say the rest of it, basically talking about carbohydrates. But that carbohydrate is the variable that allows us to kind of drop down the caloric intake to be able to lose weight and keep our lean muscle mass as much as possible with the set number that never moves. Even when I train for a contest, that protein intake stays constant, regardless of what my caloric intake stays. So, but the variable is I increase my fat from 20% to 30%, and then I increase my carbohydrates as well. So I'm more fat now. But yeah, so you can't stay that lean forever. And that's the mental aspect of when you do lose weight. People battle with gaining a little bit back. When if somebody loses 100 pounds and they gain 20 back, man, that can have a mental effect on. I mean, it's legit.
Yep. And half of it, they just spoke it back into existence. So now that's what they're fixated on. So they bring that
because you
reality
get
right
stressed.
into
What happens, John, when you get stressed? Those cortisol levels, there's two hormones that are storage hormones, and that's insulin and cortisol. And that's what we try to control, right? When you're in that time restricted eating. And that's not the only two that matter. You got leptin and ghrelin. It's just food for thought. If we could do that, then you see those people that eat and there's no stopping. So
they're like garbage disposals.
That hormone's just not telling them to stop. So they become resistant, and that's leptin. Leptin is our full, right? And ghrelin is our hunger.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
leptin's a satiety.
Yeah. So if you think about that, and then high protein also does what? It's a satiety. If I'm eating a bunch of high carbohydrate, simple sugars, then I'm going to spike my insulin level. It's going to drop like a rock, and I'm going to be hungry in 20 minutes.
Everybody's lifestyle is different, right? So for the TRE, for time restricted eating, people want to choose that eating window that fits their lifestyle. You mentioned that you like to do the 12-hour window, right? Some people may only do 8, but extending that window kind of helps you stay lean because you're spreading out the caloric intake, which spreads out your insulin spikes. And then again, you prioritize nutrient dense foods and adequate protein intake, and then everything else kind of falls into place around your protein intake, correct?
Yeah, you do want to set a limit on that fat intake because fat's important from a micronutrient standpoint. Because if we don't have enough fat, which is about 20% of the total caloric, your total caloric intake, then you can become micronutrient deficient. And I think a lot of us are micronutrient deficient, and we got high fat diets, so that's a whole nother discussion. But it's kind of hard for the body to transport those diets those nutrients if you're eating less than 10% of your total calories or a low fat diet. Bodybuilders do low fat at 20% before contest prep just because the calorie breakdown in fat is 9 and in carbs it's 4. So for them, it's like, okay, I need food because I'm starving here, right? Because I'm hungry all the time. So I reduce my fat, and that's going to give me the ability to eat double protein or carbs because that's 4 versus 9. So that's kind of why they do that. But I try to think of what the benefit is of a low fat diet. And other than that, basically caloric restriction and time restricted eating or low fat time restricted eating, equals that, I guess, if I said that right.
Makes sense. And then another thing I want to hammer home too is people need to stay hydrated. Water is extremely important. There's a reason why you see the extremely fit individuals who are training, or whether they are training or not, but why a lot of them walk around all day long with water bottles, right? It's very, very crucial. Water is the essence of life in your body. So it makes a huge difference.
The guy with the gallon jug drives me nuts. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
No, I get it.
It's one of those things,
it's a big complaint.
You don't need that jug. Just go fill the water bottle.
Go fill the water bottle. Yeah. The audience can thank you for that one. All right. Let's get into the benefits of walking after meals and why that's so crucial and beneficial for people, especially if they're trying to lose weight.
All right. Yeah. So I do a lot of walking after the meal, especially during prep time. I walk a crap ton. Probably enough to last me a year, but I try to time that too. And people's like, I don't have time to walk. Well, for it to coincide with something. Like if I know I'm going to be on a long call, like a conference call or something, I can time an extended walk that way. I do it all the time when I'm talking to you about something or anybody else. Well, now I'm walking in the mall after the surgery, getting lapped by old dudes. But anyway, that's my problem. If you're bloated, that helps with the blood sugar levels. Or if you're feeling like when you eat a high meal, or it doesn't even have to be a big meal, but a lot of people have the issues with the gastrointestinal issues and things like that. That can alleviate that. And then it can also alleviate acid reflux.
Yeah.
You can pop a bunch of antacids or whatever and sit in front of the TV, or we could just go for a walk, right? So that helps. It doesn't have to be power walking. This is a leisure walk. Just take your time, enjoy yourself, take the kids, take the dog, whatever you need to do. But yeah, engage in that walking. Just promotes better circulation, lowers your blood pressure, improves heart health. I look at these things just because at my age I'm looking at it from at 50 years old, and I have older kids and I also have younger kids. I'm not worried about my older ones, but for the younger ones, I'd like to be around in their adulthood and see more of my grandkids and things like that. So that's kind of why I do those things.
With that, and kind of keeping the diet in check with like just stop eating as much. Like it's simple, but it's not sometimes so simple. It does help you manage weight really well. And I really like the point that you made that you don't need to be power walking. You don't need to be like wringing out your shirt because you're so sweaty and exerting yourself so hard. Just keep the pace light to moderate. No need to do a power walk or anything like that. And then the other important thing is to make it a daily habit. Don't just do this once a week. Do it every day after you eat dinner, especially that traditionally dinner seems to be the largest meal of the day for most people. So after the largest meal of the day, why wouldn't you do something to combat that insulin spike, right? It just makes a lot of sense to get those periods of time in where they can just be leisurely walks. It can be
that's great
so
advice.
easy.
I wasn't even thinking about the habit side, so I'm glad you mentioned that. That's perfect because creating that habit is very important for me to also pass that down to my kids and grandkids and things like that. If those things that we touched on today become habit forming for people, the benefits are exponential. Huge.
Definitely. Yeah. There you go. Perfect. We've covered a lot of ground today, guys. We've covered walking after meals, time restricted eating, and time specific eating. We kind of gave you some key tips in each area. Just something to remember here is the small changes in these areas that you make, just like Leslie just pointed out, they can have a massive impact, an exponential impact on your overall health. And then also, we want to let you guys know too that if you're struggling in these areas, we're going to leave a link to our free wellness consult where you can just fill out a simple form, and then we'll be able to reach out with you and kind of go over things that you're struggling with, areas that we're able to help you in, and then optimize a plan to get you going on your wellness journey and help you achieve optimal health. So I want to make sure that everybody was aware of that. And next time, Leslie, thank you for sharing your expertise, and thank you listeners for tuning in, and be sure to subscribe to Activate Your Best Health and share this episode with anyone looking to optimize their health. Until next time, stay healthy and keep moving. Bye now.